Hey everybody, Draco's here. Now before we start season 7 of EUphoria, I think it's important to talk about kind of the changes that we have coming up. And the biggest change that many of you are aware of and some of you might not be is that Frosk is not going to be joining us for this season. She decided not to re-sign with the LEC for 2021. Personally, I'm super sad to see her go. I really did love making this podcast with her, and I want to wish her the best of luck in her future endeavors. And I encourage all of you who enjoyed her on the show as well to do so as well. Be sure to go follow her on Twitter. Froskurinn is her handle, or twitch.tv/I'mFrosk, where she's streaming pretty consistently and all sorts of different content from broadcast insights to high quality League of Legends solo queue, as it always is. So yeah, give her a shout out. We'll miss her. And on to season 7. It is time to get down to business, and that means we have to make some quick adjustments to the set. And I think you all know what that means. Hello, everyone, and welcome to EUphoria Podcast. It's good to be back. It's good to have you all here. Of course, we're available on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, or SoundCloud. This is the first episode in a new season, but to really properly begin, to really get started, I'm going to need a co-host. And I think we have the perfect person in mind. And with the power of special effects from the early 2000s, he will join me now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Caedrel. We have no, he could just not put the special effects in. Put the special effects. It looks so weird. It was so bad. Anyway, welcome, Caedrel. It's so good to have you, 1, on the casting team and 2 here on EUphoria with me. First, dude, how does it feel not to be like? How does it feel to be on the other side now?
It's
not
weird.
A pro player.
I've gone across the fence now, right? I've joined the broadcast. I don't know. I think I've been on EUphoria 2 or 3 times as a player.
Yeah.
Now I'm co-hosting it.
That's cool.
I don't know if you asked me a year ago from now. I was prepping for the start of the year with Excel, new team, making playoffs maybe, and now I'm the LEC broadcast dude, casting this weekend with you.
Yeah, it's gonna
how
be
sick
hype.
is that?
I'm so ready. We're gonna open the show. It's gonna be an absolute banger. I hope you guys are as excited for it as we are. What are you most excited about? About like generally about being a caster, being on broadcast? Like, are there things when you sign your contract, when you made this decision that you were like really looking forward to?
I think just getting back into it. I think the thing that I most enjoyed at Worlds was doing the casting at Worlds Plains, and I think the community received it super, super well. And it was not something that I ever thought like, oh, maybe next year I'll consider it. It was just something like, oh, I've got nothing to do. I may as well try it out. And then I progressively through EU Masters, LEC playoffs into Worlds, being on the desk as Worlds semi-finals. This whole transition, like it was just an upwards trend. And I thought, wow, this was so much fun. And then I thought of like the other sides of it, like when the crowds come and the COVID goes away and stuff like this, and being in a huge arena, perhaps casting all these semifinals and finals. It sounds so much fun. And yeah, this weekend's where it begins.
Yeah,
you're my duo partner.
It's gonna be so hype. I'm low key dreading. We're in Germany, and for those who don't know, there's like rumors of like a mega lockdown abound,
Oh, no.
and I don't know what that means for us from a work perspective. I won't speculate on what it actually means, but I'm afraid it means we have to go home because I'm like so hyped to like be in the studio together on the desk, really kick things off properly. New year and like our little slice of kind of pretending that there's not a massive pandemic going on, actually getting to work face to face. Very much a blessing, even if there's a giant plastic screen between us. But then who knows? We could also be like, in a moment's notice, Merkel could just be like, "Back to your homes, boys,
and
inside
we're back
again."
Locked up.
Yeah.
No, I think casting the weekend will be really good. I think the studio is gonna be super nice. I think that our casting duo is gonna be meme central with a lot of serious sides as well. So it's gonna be super cool.
It's gonna be interesting to find the balance. We're gonna have to definitely figure out the identity as well. Well, Caedrel, happy to have you.
Thank you.
Of course, as good as it is to have you here, we have a lot to talk about today. So how about let's jump into it. All right, to kick things off season this year was absolutely massive. So to catch you up in the fastest and potentially least effective way possible, I'm going to run through literally every single roster change across the league as quickly as I can generally. Okay, so first, Astralis dropped everyone but Nuke Deck. Astralis rebranding from Origin. They got the mouse bottom lane of Promise Q and Jesco. They got the AGO Rogue jungler Zanzara. You may also know him from the LCL. And they got the big top laner White Knight, big of course from the German league. They Excel Esports next on the list. Dropped Special, picked up the Polish legend Czekolad. We stole Caedrel, so they had to pick up Dan. And Kryze is still there. Dreams is gone from Schalke, and former SK support Limit is in. Oda Wamne has left Schalke, and TSM Broken Blade has joined. And fun fact, Broken Blade has the best ELO to height ratio of any player in the world. Next up is Mad Lions. Arome and Shadow are gone. Armut, formerly of Supermassive, who did destroy them in plans, is now their top laner alongside Movistar, Ryder, Jungler, Elyoya. Misfits, Das is gone. Vander is in. He's going to share the bench with Denik. We'll get to find out who lives there permanently. Dan is done. He will not be playing top lane this season, but they have replaced him with two different top laners. Aggressivo, promoted from Misfits Premier, and Herit from 1907 Fenerbahce Esports. That's right, 1907 Fenerbahce Esports. Fevin is also gone, now replaced with LDLC mid laner VTO. On Rogue, Finn and Vander are gone. Odawamne and the AGO Rogue support Trimby are in, easy peasy. SK Gaming, Gen X stays in the top lane. Everyone else is gone. LDLC jungler Tinks is in for Trick. TCL Prodigy Blue from 1907 Fenerbahce is in for Zazie. The TSM Academy support Treats, he's an EU resident. He just went to NA for a little bit. Takes Limit's spot, and Jezu of Misfits Premier will replace Crown Shot. Team Vitality have exactly the same lineup, except they got rid of Cabochard and replaced him with Segenda, whose name I will continue to mispronounce for at least the first week, from AGO Rogue. That is 4 out of 5 AGO Rogue players now here in the LEC. Finally, Fnatic. Rekkles left. He got replaced by Upset. Nemesis is also gone, replaced by an NA mid laner. Just kidding. It's C9 Niski. He's back. Rekkles fans are, of course, in shambles because he has opted to go over to G2 Esports. Perks has left to NA and to C9. And, of course, G2 Rekkles. Wow, big crazy offseason. Now, to recap the recap. Gone from the LEC, Perks, Febivin, Finn, Arome, Shadow, Special, Dreams, Cavo, Nemesis, Crownshot, Dan, DOS, Zazie, Caedrel, Trick, Xerxes, Destiny, and EUphoria. All those players gone. Of course, some of them have dropped down to different leagues, have left other places, but they will not be playing in LEC. Players who have transferred to different teams, Upset, Odawamne, Vander, Rekkles, and Limit. And new and or newish players in our league, players who are returning. We have Niski, Dan, Broken Blade, Blue, Tinks, Treats, Jezu, Segenda, Trimby, VTO, Aggressivo, Herit, Armut, Elyoya, Checolad, White Knight, Jeskla, Promiscue, Zanzara. And if that sounds like a lot to you, it is. It's an absolutely insane off season. I'm done talking now. Caedrel, we can talk about the teams. But don't worry, if you're still confused, there will be a lot more content on the LEC to run you through the new rosters, and it is totally okay if it takes you a few weeks to remember where everyone is playing, because it certainly took me a few weeks while prepping. Yeah, like, this is a lot. This is a huge offseason. I think one of the biggest that we've ever had, most certainly. And Caedrel, I want to immediately know, what team, what lineups do you have your eyes on in the offseason? Like, who do you think are the big winners? Who do you think are the big losers? Who do people need to be watching?
I think if you look just at the league in general, there's the strong teams, Fnatic, G2, Mad, Rogue. If you look at the last couple splits, Rogue and Mad finishing first and second in summer. I think if you look towards the bottom end of the table, I think that I really like the idea that SK has gone with. I think that teams going for 5 rookies can either work out really well or really badly. And I think that it's a bit of a meme sometimes in Europe. But I think that this one is actually not bad. I mean, it just needs to live up to the hype, right? If you just look across the roster, Gen X, he role swapped from mid. He was super high low the whole year, and he was performing really well in that roster. And I think that if you look at jungle, Tinks has always been hyped, especially on social media. When is this guy going to get a shot in LEC? He finally got it. Then you got Blue, who's been called like Faker, of Europe. He's like, everyone's hyping him up. He was rank 1, I think, last year or the year before, sitting at a really high low. You got Jezu, who's hyped from the national leagues, and you've got Treats, who's been on TSM, and every TSM fan was like, put Treats in. So you have all these players who have got like hype behind them, or like promise, and now they're all on the same team. You've literally taken all of the players who people think should have been in LEC, thrown them onto the same team, and now, all of them have their chance to be like, yeah, we deserve to be here. And it could either turn out into a team where it's like Mad Lions from last year, or it could turn out into a team where it's like, well, maybe we were wrong.
Yeah, it's hard to know. I mean, personally, I'm really excited for Tinks. This is, as I said, I followed Tinks for a while in the early days of EU Masters. He was a guy who was absolutely monitoring people on Graves. He's always been that kind of player. And recently, he's been playing, Skarner or whatever in EU Masters, which is boring as hell, but not meta anymore. God bless. We're expecting carry junglers. So I really would love to see these guys hit the ground running. But I think you're right that anytime we build, or European teams build these new rookie lineups, regardless of how much potential we've heard, it always feels like a little bit of a coin flip as to how everything's going to fit together.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, Tinks was doing really well in EU Masters and stuff. And I think that Tinks' career trajectory is sort of like, he almost had a shot in LEC. I remember he was trying out for Schalke and stuff like this, doing a lot with Nuke Duck, and then he didn't really make it. And now he's really tried again, and he's finally made it back to LEC. So it's been, I think, about 2 or 3 years now of people saying Tinks deserves an LEC chance. And now he finally has it. And I think he has a pretty good team around him. He is quite a selfish player. If you look at how he plays the game, he takes everything. So let's just see if he can carry. I mean, jungle is quite strong right now. So
yeah. So speaking of kind of players getting their shot, I think we are seeing a lot of people coming into this there's a lot of fresh blood, people who have come up very rapidly through EU Masters and maybe played a few years in the amateur scene. But there's also a lot of people like Tinks, I think, who were on the cusp for a long time. And there are some names that are returning that I think people are going to have questions about. And so I want to look at Astralis right now as a lineup, because I think that universally, this is the lineup that people are the most skeptical about. We have White Knight, we've got Zanzara, we've got Nuke Duck still there, and we've obviously got the Promise Cube, Jeskla bottom lane. So like, what's your read on this team? Is it as bad as people are initially expecting it to be, or are you more optimistic?
I think that the doubt basically comes from, if you look at Astralis Origin last year, they had players like Upset, Alfari, Xerxes, these huge names where you think like, okay, that's a star player. And they basically just scrapped it all, kept Nuke Duck and thrown in 4 players who are not so much rookies, but like have been looking good in national leagues. And I think if you take any organization that does that, Fnatic, G2 just literally gets rid of all their star players and basically puts in new, fresh talent, which perhaps has been in the LEC or is looking at strong players coming into the LEC this year, then you're always going to have doubts. I think that that's where the main essence of the doubt comes from. But I think if you look across the board, I mean, some of these rookies are pretty good. I think Zanzar, he won EU Masters. He was easily the best performing jungler
I don't
there.
actually think we can call him a rookie because he played for so long in the LCL.
True. I wouldn't really call him rookie.
He's also got more
stick with fresh blood.
Fresh blood. Yeah,
fresh blood is the word.
Yeah.
I think the fresh blood is super good. And Jeskla, he was my teammate for a year. I think that he had good moments, bad moments. We had a lot of shaky times. I mean, he had changed support a few times. I think Jeskla was playing really well on mouse with Promiscu, so you've essentially got that dynamic, taken the best jungler out of EU Masters, and then thrown in White Knight, who is sort of like a rock. I think he was a rock on UOL. He's always fine playing tanks. He's pretty decent on carries, and I think that some more insight into White Knight is that the whole year he's been top 10 in solo queue, I think. So he's been really, really good in solo queue alongside players like Genax, Blue, Tinks, all that stuff. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's as bad as it looks. I think that it just looks bad because of the downgrade in terms of names. Yeah. But I think that in terms of play, it's look promising, I think.
Well, yeah, and I think people have a right to be skeptical about Origin, now Astralis, right? Because at the end of the day, it was a bad finish with a very good roster.
Yeah,
they finished 10th.
They finished 10th.
They finished 10th.
With those names.
I think what I would ask people is like try to give the players the benefit of the doubt. I believe in giving people that fresh start, and I think that Promiscu had some interviews come out about it recently, about how he's working really hard, and obviously you have all these guys who are working really hard, so maybe give them the benefit of the doubt. But if you're not like instantly on the I really trust Astralis to make the right roster decisions, like I feel you. Astralis and CS:GO, I believe in absolutely. Astralis and League of Legends, we're gonna have to see.
The brand needs to live up to it, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
CS:GO has a lot. They were one of the best teams in the world. They were the best team in the world for a long time. So now, if you look at League of Legends, Astralis, they kind of have a lot to live up to in terms of brand name. But I think just looking across the player dynamic, it's really interesting how players who were in the LEC then go to national leagues, then come back to the LEC. It's almost like this new drive for them. I think they have this motivation. They go into national leagues, they win their way back up. Players like Promiscu and Jeskla, and I think if you look across other players who have done that, like Forbidden, Maxlor, all these players who have gone to national leagues and now are trying to come back into the LEC, it gives them a new perspective on how things are. Maybe they lose their ego, or they try harder, or it's more motivational, these things. And then once they come back to LEC, I think it's a new chapter in their career. So they're actually slightly different players.
Yeah, and I think it's actually really nice because I think historically, in my view, when I look at the way that League of Legends used to be, when it was just challenger circuit, and not all these ERLs and the buildup of talent wasn't quite as refined as it is now, is that if you come in to LEC and you bomb out or you don't have a great split, we probably never hear from you again. More likely than not. Whereas now, the fact that players can drop down to national leagues and then still come back up, that it's not a death sentence to have a single bad split or a single bad year, is really cool and makes me feel really good about it, because there are so many players that I look at them and I go, if it was a different team, if it was a different situation, could they have shined? Or, maybe are they just bad? And you're never going to actually answer those questions if you don't give that player another shot. And I love that that's what we're seeing. But as a final note here, before we move on, we've got Mickey standing by to have some fun and games. And after that, we're going to have a tier list to break down all the teams and where we think they rank. There's a lot of players that left.
Yeah.
There's an obscene amount of players that left.
For every player that's left, the player's joined, right? And a lot of players have joined.
Is it... I feel like we let a lot of really good talent go out of the league. Are you sure?
About me?
I mean, Caedrel, is a final question. If you can build a lineup to contest the top of the standings out of all the players who have left, who would you pick?
Ooh, well, obviously I left, so I have to be on the roster. The best junglers left.
No, it's going to contest the G2 esports of the world. Sure.
I mean, easily names that come to mind: Alfari, straight away. He's gone to NA. Perks as well. Those are the two really dope ass solo laners.
Yeah. It's like you're already a top 3 team just with those two, right?
Yeah, I think the only AD carry who's actually left is Crownshot. So we'd put Crownshot in there. I think from the supports, throw Dreams in there. I think that's actually a really strong lineup. All it needs is a jungler. And there I am, baby.
And that's your pitch.
That's a pretty good team, I think.
Listen, organizations, if everything goes belly up this year, and you're trying to put a roster together, and Alfari wants to come back and Perks wants to come back, all I'm saying is Caedrel has a pitch for you. But we'll hope for the best for the new talent. And of course...
but if I wasn't including myself, which I think I shouldn't, I think players like Shadow. I think Shadow was really good. He just had a bad world showing. I mean, this guy was 20 kills on Olaf against G2 in a best of 5. I think it was spring.
Yeah.
I think this guy was really good. So it's really shocking to me how you have like also these players who sort of bombed out of the LEC after 1 year, even though he finished 2nd place in the regular split. They claimed 3rd in playoffs in spring. I think this team was really strong, and then players like Shadow just disappeared. Like that.
Yeah, some of these stories make sense. You can see how some of these players would filter out, like Trick retiring. Yeah, Trick's been around forever, and obviously I'm sad to see Trick go, but like that's not an unreasonable leap. But especially for the 3 names that I think of are Shadow, I think of Crownshot, and I think of Nemesis, who are just gone. They're just gone. They're like that. And obviously congrats to Crownshot and Nemesis for being there on Genji now. They're content creators, and that's super cool. Go check them out. Shadow is somewhere. I'm sorry, I don't know where you are, Shadow, but check him out too. Like, support these guys without a doubt. But that caught me off guard. And we'll just have to see kind of what happens if there's more changes coming into summer. But for now, we've got 10 teams. We're going to have to see how it works out. But let's talk about the big team. Let's talk about the number 1 team. And to do that, we need to call in our boy Mikyx for a good old game we call Duo Q. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Duo Q, the brand new segment on EUphoria where we find out how close our bot lanes really are. And who better to kick us off than the brand new G2 bot lane of Mikyx and Rekkles. Miky1, welcome. How are you feeling today? Are you optimistic about your chances of knowing everything there is to know?
I'm feeling pretty confident there. I think I know him pretty well from the little time we spent together, but we'll see.
We're going to have to find out. So for anyone who doesn't know how this game works, it's kind of a parody, I guess, of this marriage question game that a lot of people play. And essentially what happened is we gave Rekkles a quiz ahead of time with a bunch of questions on it. He answered all of those questions. Now what we're going to have Miky do is he's going to have to guess how Rekkles answered each and every one of this question. We're going to play across 3 rounds. We've got a 5-question round, a 10-question round, and 1 final 5-question round. And depending on your score, well, we'll give you like an accolade. We'll be like, is this G2 wins worlds? That's max points. Or is this hello NA? This is Mikyx, and that's probably on the lower end of the point spectrum. So to kick things off, we'll start with round 1, and this is the easy stuff. It's just pick one. It's a literal coin flip. I think it should be pretty easy for you. We're gonna find out. So question 1: would Rekkles rather win worlds or have a superpower?
Win worlds, probably.
Yes. That, which was weird as hell to me. You could pick like time control.
You can pick a superpower that makes you win worlds.
Exactly.
So like,
you could literally be a god, and he's like, no, I want to win.
I think he would say win worlds.
You are correct. Win worlds is the correct.
Just be able to reverse time and just keep going to the world finals over and over and over.
Yeah, you could just you just keep backing, like echo alting back
but that
over
sounds
and
really
over
sad.
again.
That sounds too sad.
What if his secret is he does have that power, and in 2018 he replayed that world's final like 100 times, and he could never get any score other than 3-0 or 0-3.
It's like the anime arc that just never hits the point where it's like he won. He just keeps losing.
What if Caps has that power?
Oh god. All right, question 2. Very simple. Money or fame? Like from what you know about Martin.
I don't know. It's kind of a flip.
It's kind of a flip, right? It's not as obvious.
Yeah. I think most people would say money. Like fame is not bad either.
Rekkles, you've seen he posts those selfies. They do really well. Maybe that's what he's all about.
Yeah. But maybe he would post more if he wanted more fame. But he doesn't post as often.
True.
Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
Okay, so I'll say money.
Money is right. Money is the answer.
Boom. 2 for 2.
Which I think is the right answer, by the way. Because like, what is fame
I
like?
think so, yeah.
What is usually you get a lot of money from being famous anyway, though. Maybe he should have gone.
You
the
can be
other way.
famous for not having money.
You can also get famous for having money, in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Wow, money kind of wow. It seems like money's important. Who would have thought? All right. Would Rekkles rather find love or find a good duo bot? Whew. It's tough, right?
Same thing.
But he already found it last 3 years. I meant not this year.
Oh, okay. Wait, do you mean love or a good duo? It's unclear what you're referring to.
Could be both. I don't know. But I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say love.
No, he said
Like
duo
correct.
bot.
Oh,
Bro, he wouldn't take a superpower over a world's trophy. Of course, he's going to take a duo bot
okay,
over
that's
love,
fair, yeah.
which is crazy to me for the record. I think that that's probably wrong on the list of priorities. I just want to say for the record, I respect the commitment, but I feel like.
I was just thinking of the ring that he has.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever.
The commitment.
I got pranked.
All right. Who has the better Gragas? Wonder or Mikyx? What does Rekkles think?
Me? Like, how is that even the question?
Yeah.
Did you actually put that question in seriously?
Yeah, I just thought maybe he would betray you. I don't know. Mikyx is the correct answer. Here's the one, and this one, this will either stump you or you'll immediately know the answer, and I'm curious to find out. Who is the better laner, according to Rekkles? Is it Mickey or is it Rekkles?
Me.
Yeah, he said you. He's such a nice guy. I thought for sure
He
he
is
would
such
say
a nice
himself. Do you think that's just him being a nice guy, or do you legitimately think that
I think it's being nice. But like, yeah, I don't know. I entered him quite a bit, but
Do you think it's maybe
maybe he's used to it. Maybe he's used to it.
Oh,
So,
season
like,
hasn't even started.
he's
People
like-
already flaming Hill is saying.
No, I'm just saying, like, you know.
I mean, it is
I don't know
Rekkles'
what I'm
ex.
saying.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
You gotta pour salt
Next
in the wound.
question, yeah.
All right. Next section. Okay, so round 2. That was just first 5 questions. Round 2, we're gonna have 10 questions. It's multiple choice. So there are a lot of options here. Some of these questions are gonna be easy for you, and some of them are gonna be, I think, quite difficult. So we asked Rekkles, if you could have one ability from League of Legends in real life, what would it be? Is it A, a Twisted Fate ultimate, B, Yuumi W, C, Tom Kench E, or D, Zillion ult?
So why do they have like 2 uses on and 2 actually good ones?
Some people are weird, man. Maybe he wants to be the Yuumi.
TFU.
You think it's TF ult. You think that he wants the ability to reveal everyone on the planet and teleport anywhere he wants.
Yeah.
Nah, he wanted Zillion ult. I know, I didn't get it either. I was
He's not
like,
broken.
bro, I don't understand. I think TF ult is clearly the stronger option, but maybe he feels like he
Yeah,
can
it's
live forever if he has Zillion ult.
But doesn't it get to a point where you just have to spam your ult? Does it have a cooldown?
Yeah, well, I feel like I don't understand exactly the lore behind Zillion ult, but I feel like if you're on your deathbed and you Zillion ult, you're like, come back with full life, but you still probably like have cancer or whatever is killing you, right? And then you just die again.
Depends on the cooldown of Zillion ult.
Does depend on the cooldown of
If it's a few
Zillion ult.
minutes, you're chilling.
Yeah, we'll have to find out. All right, next question. Rekkles' most embarrassing moment in his esports career. Was it A, Worlds 2017 RNG, B, Spring 2016 playoffs, C, Worlds 2014 versus Samsung Blue, or D, Worlds 2018 finals?
Most embarrassing.
Most embarrassing moment.
It's a good question. I would say the RNG game.
You are correct. Worlds 2017 RNG, Rekkles' most embarrassing
I'm
moment.
impressed by
Of
that one.
all of the ones, I thought that one would be a big fat flip. I kind of had to scramble because I didn't give him multiple choice, right? He just gave me an answer and I had to turn it into multiple choice. I was like, what are the other Rekkles embarrassing moments? I thought I'd throw like some losses to G2 in there, but no, you nailed it.
I mean, at first I thought about 2016 because 2016 was like the unsuccessful year for Fnatic, I guess, when I had the Spirit Gamsa roster.
Yep.
And then he also mentioned that that finals was like really like, I don't know, not sure if embarrassing, here's another word, but that was also an option. But I think he also mentioned at some point that the RNG series was like or he felt like that he got outclassed, or no. I think he said something about Uzi, but Uzi was good.
It does.
So
It does seem like that the Uzi is a trigger point.
Yeah. So I assume that was it. Because I remember that game, I think Uzi was like, I don't know, 20-0 on Kog'Maw or some shit. Like,
Oh, God.
I think it was really fat.
I don't even remember that one.
Write it down.
Question 3. I feel like this one's going to be pretty easy for you based on the discussions that we've had, Mickey and Caedrel. I don't think this will surprise anyone. In a zombie apocalypse, which G2 player would die first? Jankos, Mickey, Caps, or Wonder?
Caps.
Yes. Oh my God.
That was a freebie.
Yeah, it's a freebie.
Yeah, you have to give me some actual questions. Like.
Yeah. For those who don't know, Caps is the purest soul on the face of the planet, which also means that he would probably walk face first into a zombie and completely not be paying attention. If Rekkles had to go pro in another esport, what would it be? Would it be A, Dota 2, B, Overwatch, C, CSGO, or D, Valorant?
CSGO.
Yes. Damn, dude. Is this something that he's brought up? Does he talk about like liking CSGO or anything? Or are you just like, that's the other big esport?
I just heard, I never heard him talk about Dota, so I assume he doesn't play Dota. I heard he doesn't like playing Valorant when it came out. Or like he said he prefers CSGO. And then I don't even know what he had for the fourth option.
Overwatch.
So CSGO was like, just kind of like...
That's a stretch. All right.
CSGO was like...
I'm impressed. All right, next one. This is where we started to get what city did Mikyx grow up in? Is
Me?
Yeah. So I asked Rekkles what city you grew up in, and he gave me an answer. What did he answer? Did he answer A, Maribor? And if I mispronounce these, I'm completely sorry, Mickey. You can correct me. B, Slovenia something something sad face. C, Kusperk, or D, Zagreb?
Wait, what? What was the second one?
Slovenia something something sad face.
What?
I asked him what city you grew up in. So it's Maribor, Slovenia something something, Kusperk, or Zagreb.
Okay, so I hope he's not really bad at geography, but I'm pretty sure that he heard of Zagreb, even though it's in Croatia. And he might have answered that, but let me think. I don't know what your second one is, like the something something. It's sad face. Like,
remember that, like, I'm just reading you what he wrote verbatim. So he could have written that in. He could have written that in. I could have also written that in. You never know, Mickey.
Slovenia something something sad face. That sounds like something he would write. But like, okay, so it doesn't even know the capital. I assume the capital would be in there somewhere, like Ljubljana. Maribor is for sure not it. Chushperk is the actual real answer. I doubt he would actually get that.
So
but he had these 4 options, no? Actually, no.
No, he had no options. He had no options. He could, and I told him he could not ask you, but he could look up cities in Slovenia or whatever.
Oh, okay, then it's fine. Yeah, then it's Slovenia something something.
You're right.
Is that the answer?
It's Slovenia something something sad face with a sad emoji. Wonderful.
I know exactly which emoji it is as well. He does it a lot.
That's classic. All right. What movie could Rekkles watch over and over again? Is it A, The Avengers, B, Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, C, Mean Girls, or D, Love Actually?
Lord of the Rings.
Two Towers? You sure?
Yeah.
Absolutely correct.
Boom. Easy. That was a bit too easy.
All right. Look, I'm figuring out the difficulty. It's hard to know what you guys have and haven't discussed. Next question. Again, personal. What is Mikyx's last name? Is it A, Melee, spelled M-E-H-L-E? I'm sorry, I can never remember. Is it B, Meble, spelled M-E-B-L-E-H? Is it C, the capital letter X? Or D, I don't know, don't use this question? Quote.
Well, Mele, or how you pronounce it. It's Mechle, but you know.
Mechle.
M-E-H-L-E. I'm pretty sure he knows.
You're pretty sure he knows. You don't think that it's the capital X as in Mikyx, or I don't know, please don't use this question.
It's a trick answer because last time was Slovenia something, so you think I'll fall for it twice? Like, come on, Rekkles.
You're right. Your mental fortitude is incredible. He did, in fact, he knew your last name. I don't know if I can't say if he knew how to pronounce it because I didn't. I'm sorry.
He tried. That's why I know that he knows my real name because he tried to pronounce it. He tried. I mean, it was close.
Honorable. All right. This is the one that I'm I kind of low-key hope that you get wrong. I asked Rekkles, what weird talent / skill do you have? Did he answer A, bubbleception, which is blowing a bubble within a bubble with chewing gum? B, he can burp the ABCs in under a minute. C, he can reenact the entire legless Gimli scene from Two Towers, the one during the siege. Or D, he took singing lessons as a kid and he can do all of Madama Butterfly, which is an opera.
Okay, so I think it's not the last one. I don't think it's anything to do with singing. I don't think it's the bubblegum either. But then again, we never had bubblegum, so he wouldn't be able to show it. But I don't think it's the case. Otherwise, he would sure flex it somehow. He would he would mention it at least at some point. But I never heard of that. It could be something with Lord of the Rings. Wait, what was it again?
He can reenact the entire Helm's Deep siege scene, the Legolas Gimli bit. I think, if I understood his answer correctly.
Oh yeah,
maybe.
That's like even I can do that. Like,
so is that a special talent though?
I don't think so.
Also, when do I get to hear you reenact the entire Legolas Gimli scene?
When I get, I don't know, the same question.
All right,
what was the last one?
He can burp the ABCs in under a minute.
Nah, there's no way. Only Wunder can do that, probably. I'm gonna go with Lord of the Rings answer.
Lord of the Rings. While it might be true, it is not the talent that he answered. His answer was A, bubbleception. He can blow a bubble with bubble gum inside another bubble using specifically Hubba Bubba.
He was looking up. Oh, I remember he was looking up Hubba Bubba recently.
All I'm saying is, man, can you win worlds when you don't know that your AD carry can secretly do bubbleception, aka
bubble in a bubble?
Bubble in a bubble with Hubba
Okay,
Bubba.
like you threw me off with the Lord of the Rings.
Not so smart, are you? All right.
Whatever, Draco.
If Rekkles, you got two more in multiple choice, and then I think we get to the last five, which I think are a mix of very hard and very easy. If you could beat any player / team, who would it be? Did Rekkles answer A, 2018 IG with Jackie Love, B, 2017 with Uzi and RNG, C, 2019 G2 with Perks, or D, 2017 G2 with Sven?
I mean, I think it's between. It's for sure not the G2 with Sven. I think it's between RNG, IG, and G2 with Perks. Because with the G2 lineup, we won the last 3-4 splits, I think, and he was 3 times second. So that was like kind of, I guess. But then again, if they won against IG 2018, they would actually win Worlds. So I think that's probably the most likely answer. But again, RNG used to be like the team that beat them every time, kind of like at MSI and 2017, I think. But I'm still gonna have to say IG, because he did say that winning Worlds is like the biggest goal, and they could have won Worlds if they won against IG. So let's go for IG.
Golf clap. Very smart, Mickey. Very well deduced. You're the G2 Sherlock Holmes. Yes, the answer is 2018 IG and Jackie Love. Good call. Rekkles, there's a theme about Rekkles really wanting to beat specifically IG in 2018. Well, there's a lot of questions kind of in this quiz around that, and he definitely... pretty much at any opportunity, he's like 2018 IG, 2018 IG, 2018 IG, except interestingly for the 2017 RNG answer. Last question in multiple choice. What champion does Rekkles secretly want to play on stage? Is it A, Janna, B, Vayne, C, Draven, or D, I want to play support for Mikyx?
He wants to play support for me.
No, it's Vayne. He wants to play Vayne on stage.
Oh, you fell right into the trap again.
You're so smart, Drake, because you know exactly what I was.
I was in those normal games. Jesus. You guys were fiending for it.
Actually, yeah, you were.
Secret agent.
You know me way too good.
It's good, dude. All right. Well, you're hit or miss on the questions here. All right. This is the last. These are the last 5 questions. They're mostly one-word answers. Okay. So they shouldn't be too hard, but they're very open questions. So first question in the short answers. This is round 3. Rekkles' favorite champion in the game.
Vayne.
Yes. Very good.
Nice.
I know that because I played Vayne. Do you remember one game? I played Vayne.
Yeah.
And he played Nami. And then after that, I was talking to him about IPL5 where he played Vayne, and said, "Yeah, it's my favorite champion." Huh.
Ooh, you're paying attention. You good. All I'm saying is that good duo queue material also sounds like good boyfriend material, because those are the details that I think you got to remember in your relationship.
Loyal.
Yeah, loyal. Remembers the things that you say. Listens to
all
you.
the time.
Yeah, this is strong, Mickey. This is strong. The G2
I listen
fans
to
are
everything.
yeah, I'm starting to see that.
I was really good at playing memory when I was a kid.
There you go. That skill coming back. Delete one champion. Who is it? What one champion would Rekkles delete?
Depends how recent this is.
You can ask for soft hints. I'll give you soft hints on some of these because some of them are very wide open.
No.
All right.
Okay.
Stay back with your soft hints. So, I think Samira could be one of them. I'm not answering it. I'm just like
Okay. All right.
giving
All
you
right.
thought process.
All right.
Because he used to ban it a lot in solo queue. And whenever he played in normal games, because it was just OP whenever I played against it. That could be an answer if it's like the most recent. And then if it's like all-time champions, it could be something like, I can't think of any bot lanes that he ever mentioned that are like annoying. Probably just like the whole jungle role.
Everyone hates jungle role.
What's good against Vayne? Draven. Draven could be an option.
All right, I'm gonna ask you. You got to give me a final answer here, Mickey.
I'm gonna give you Samira.
You're correct. He would absolutely delete Samira from the game. My hint would have been recent champion, and/or you probably see it in scrims. But yeah, he's not alone. A lot of people not a big fan of the wind wall. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Actually, in order to play bot lane at all, by the way, if we ever duo, you need to know this. We mandatorily have to ban Pantheon and Samira, or I will run it.
Because Bard get counted?
Yeah, I've seen it happen
No,
a
just
lot.
literally any champion
okay.
I play. It's just Mickey's seen it happen first. The first normal game me and Mickey played together, he's like, let's not ban anything. I was like, we might need to ban Pantheon Samira. He's like, no, it's fine. He's like, it's fine. Instantly 0-7. Next game, Mickey doesn't even say anything to me, just instantly bans Pantheon. Yeah.
Knows it's straight
He's like, there's no way
the
we're
memory
ever...
game. He knew it.
He knew it, yeah. Good memory.
But Draco's running it anyway, so like, what does it matter?
You don't need to say that. Pretend it's imbalanced champions, not bad hands. Please, Mickey.
Okay.
All right. Rekkles. We asked Rekkles which team not named Fnatic is your toughest opponent. What do you think he answered? Not Fnatic, toughest opponent.
Oh, from now?
And again, LEC team. Sorry, I should also specify.
Yeah, from this split.
Yep.
Rogue.
Yes, correct. He did. I was very surprised, but I'm excited to see how that one works out.
Same.
Is that from scrim results? Are they looking pretty scary?
Yeah.
Keep it as vague as possible. All right, nice.
But they mastered one patch, but like the LEC patch is on a different patch, so we'll
find
smash
out.
them next time.
All right. Keep the hope going. We'll see. Well, that'll make Rogue fans happy to hear. Now, last few questions. What role is the most OP? According to Rekkles. Yes. He also wrote, but also the hardest, I think, not so as not to piss off all the junglers, but he did agree that jungle was the most OP.
That's bullshit.
I think that is, yeah.
I think, okay, let's
play off-road jungle, and he's just alt-tabbing, playing chess with me, and just full clearing. And then whenever he's done with the full clear, he goes to gank, gets a kill, he ends up being 10-0, and then he wins the chess game as well, sometimes, if it's alright. And then he just wins the solo game as well, because it's 20-0. So I don't know if that's balanced or hard.
So maybe he has to flex the jungle sometimes.
Or maybe they need to add.
Yeah, maybe he's
they
just
need
good
to
at
add
jungle.
in a chess component in League of Legends, so you have to both jungle and play chess at the same time.
You see like the teams on stage, and then Caps just has 2 screens, and everyone else has 1.
He's got a chessboard. He has to like run over to the other side of the chess.
like
Yankos or something.
He's trained in this art for like years. He like alt taps 24/7 if he's tilted or something, or if he's watching a series that's really good, he just like plays solo queue and then alt taps while CSing and like watches the series a bit. I don't know how he does it. I don't even know how he's like following a series while he's doing that. But somehow he's just
that's a
I
superpower.
heard Caps watch series in solo queue. I didn't believe it.
that's
insane to me. That's I can't even CS with all of my attention focused on the screen, let alone alt tabbing back and forth. Let's see. Okay.
It's definitely a skill.
Last 2 questions. What champ will Rekkles never play on stage?
Doesn't want to leak.
Oh, I know one. Okay, I'm not sure if this is like AD carry only questions or if it's like any champ in the game. If it's any champ in the game, I think he would say Teemo, because whenever he says like, might as well pick Teemo. Like he's like the go-to troll champ to pick, So I would think that would be my answer. But if it's only the carries, no, let's just go.
Wait, do you want a hint or you just want to go? You want to go in?
No,
it's Draven. He will never play Draven on stage. Right.
That's good. My Draven is pretty cute.
So if the Draven becomes meta, we know they're swapping.
Yeah, they're going to swap. And finally,
Draven, Janna, bot lane.
It'll be like, 2018 Misfits all over again, where you and Hansama just played Draven.
Actually, cut the clip, guys. Cut the clip.
All right, last question. This one, very wholesome. What is the first time that Rekkles laned with you, from his perspective? What is the first time that he laned with you?
2016 tryouts. When I tried it for Fnatic.
Completely.
Boom.
Spot on. Yeah, I was expecting it to be like...
I mean, we probably laid before in solo queue, but like...
I think it's a good answer, though, because it's a memorable moment. Because what he could have said, like, 2015 solo queue, but would you have guessed 2015 solo queue? Yeah. Yeah, 2016. I had no idea about that, by the way. That's super cool. Yeah. Mickey, I'm going to be honest. It's a mixed bag. I'm going to make Phil, I love you. I'm sorry. Total up the score at the end, and we'll figure what your final score is. And depending on the result, we'll give you a nice catchy title, whether it's G2 forever or guys, I think Fnatic deserved to lift the trophy this year, or guys, it's...
I think I got at least 70%.
I think you did pretty good. I think you did pretty good. If I were a better host...
It's like kind of like a jungle main's win rate in this recent solo.
Jungle keeps getting brought up here.
Caedrel. Final question to kind of...
So how are you doing?
I actually haven't played solo queue in the last 2 months.
He's a caster now. He doesn't play solo queue.
I think you should.
Yeah, I think I should get
before
stuck
jungle
in.
gets nerfed.
Yeah, I just got my computer yesterday, so
there you go.
I finally get stuck in.
Who am I kidding? It's always going to be.
Mickey, I think our goal here was one, to have some fun, and two, to kind of just figure out how things are going with Rekkles. But can you just share a little insight before we let you go? Like, how is it, the adaptation of the team? Does it feel really smooth? I think, I did that monologue for Newsflash, and it's like drama, ooh, blah blah blah. Will Rekkles fit in with G2? But like, how is it actually going? Do you feel like it's been going smoothly? Has it been a little bit difficult? What's it been like?
I think it's going pretty smoothly. I think in scrims we're playing pretty well. I think reviews are going well too. We have like good productive discussions. Also outside of the game, he's trying to like mesh well with the team and like picks up our interests, I guess, like Magic. Or we watched like series together. I got him to watch an anime. I didn't finish it yet, but eventually.
What anime? Because the anime fans Promise Neverland. Okay, the anime fans are fiending. The one thing that showed up on Twitter when I told people you're going to be here is like, make him talk about anime.
Oh yeah, because okay, so Rekkles, the first anime and only anime he ever watched was Sword Art Online, and then when I heard that, I was like, yeah. I mean, I understand why he doesn't watch it anymore, like anime in general. So I had to start off with a good one that I think anyone would like. I think Promise Neverland is exactly that. Like anyone would like Promise Neverland, I think. So yeah, that's the first one, and then we'll explore further, but let's finish that one.
We'll keep track. We're gonna have a Rekkles weeb check-in week to week. We can see when you've got him to like Neon Genesis Evangelion or Ghost in the Shell. When you get him that far down the hole, he'll officially be a weeb. We can dream, or all of Naruto.
Not gonna happen.
Or One Piece. I guess you're a One Piece boy. Regardless, Mickey, thank you so much for coming on. Final predictions for this week. Is this a 3-0 starting week for G2 Esports? Are you guys unstoppable?
I think it's going to be a 3-0, yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. All right, good luck in the weeks to come. Excited to see how this very dramatic roster swap works out in the end. But yeah, thank you for joining Mickey, and you'll find out your final score when the episode releases. And hopefully you do keep that 70% win rate going. Always good to have Mickey on the show. Love having him around. We'll talk to him. Excited to hear and see kind of what the G2 project does in the future. But as interesting as G2 is, we got 9 other teams to talk about. And to do that, Caedrel, I asked you to put together a tier list. But one tier list isn't enough. Now, I could have written a tier list, but you guys have seen my tier list. You guys flame me for them all the time. So I asked you at home to make tier lists. On Twitter, at LEC tweeted out a poll, and they took 100 of the responses that were fully complete at random to build a fan-rated tier list. Now, Caedrel, before we start running into yours, just to recap, the fan-rated tier list has the following rankings. G2 number 1, Fnatic number 2, Rogue number 3, Mad 4, Schalke 5, Misfit 6, XL7, Vitality 8, SK9, and Astralis 10. Now, there's some numbers in there, too, that make it pretty interesting that show which teams are closer and further apart. But, Caedrel, I don't want a 1 through 10 list from you. I want a tier list. If you're wondering why I didn't do this on Twitter, it's kind of hard, to be completely honest, because it's like, how do I read that response? It's much more difficult. That's why Twitter, you get a 1 to 10 list and Caedrel gets a tier list, because he gets more time to explain and you guys get a single list. So we'll see. So this is the aggregate of our peers out there in Twitter land, is their general assumption of how the league is going to stack up or who is on top. But I want to run you through 2 teams at a time. I want to know where you place them, S through D, as always on the show. S tier being the best and D tier being definitely worst. So Caedrel, let's talk about the first 2 teams, Team Vitality and Mad Lions. Where are you rating both of them?
So I'll start off with Mad Lions. I think Mad Lions throughout the whole of last year are really good, and I think they've kept some core components. Yes, they've lost Peter Dunn. Yes, they do get rid of their top side, their top jungle, but I think that that's actually improvements in terms of players. I think Elyoya was one of the best junglers in the ERLs. I think he's someone to be really hyped about. And I think that the top laner they got, Armut, is actually a really good pickup as well. So I think Mad Lions B tier for me. I think that they're not quite, not quite A tier just yet. I'd say B tier. But I think that they're a super strong team. They've kept some good core components. I don't want to overhype them too much because slotting in a top jungle is quite difficult. I think there's a lot to work on there.
And to clarify, normally when we do these ratings, everyone kind of has their own definition for how they slot in and how they want. Is this your start of season expectations that they're going to come in at B tier?
I think this team, if you give them a split, they're A+. I know there's no A+, but I'm going to make an A+.
Yeah, for sure.
I think they're at the cusp of a B+ right now. I think they're just about borderline A. I would push them to A if there was a bit more time to look at them, but I think that start of season is always difficult. New top jungle, whole dynamic changes, especially when you change jungle. I think jungle, mid, support, those 3, once you change one of those players, the whole team dynamic kind of shifts. But I think they've kept the good core components of Humanoid, Karzi, and Kaiser. I think they're on the cusp of A tier, B+.
Okay. And so that feels like a pretty reasonable assessment to me, right? But it's good to hear that you do feel like in the long term that these are going to be pretty big upgrades. And I think there's a lot of teams where there's going to be debate about how 2 players are going to stack up against each other. And I think on Mad Lions, you could debate between Elyoya and Shadow, maybe, like in terms of what they're going to provide to the team, what they can do, especially after, as you mentioned earlier, like Shadow had some monster games against G2. He had a fantastic performance. But the good news for Mad Lions fans is that a lot of their skepticism about a player like Armut has to be pretty much immediately silenced by the fact that he literally beat a Rome at World. Kind of dumpster.
Yeah, like he had a game of Shen, like 10 kills or something.
Yeah, and that's not to say that a Rome couldn't have had a better performance or showed up, but at least if there's some part of your mind that goes, is this guy better? Well, here's some evidence that yes, in fact, he is a direct upgrade.
And that's why I wouldn't put them in A tier so much, because Shadow was a huge part of their whole last year. I think that he, barring the end of summer playoffs, Worlds, I think if you kind of cut that out, cut the tape, stop the count. If you stop it up to the end of the regular split, I think Shadow had an amazing performance the whole year.
Yeah, absolutely did. Okay, so Vitality. This is a team that's only changed one player. They got rid of Cabochard. They brought in Sagenda.
Now, as much as I think Cabochard was not a slight problem for the team, maybe he's calling for a lot of resources. Schemes is always playing top side. And then he never really had that carry performance where he actually carried the team, showed that he was a leader and led them to the wins. I think Sagenda is a good upgrade. I think it's going to fit the team dynamic really well. I just personally think that keeping those 4 players, from my experience of playing against that team in scrims on stage, I think I haven't seen enough from them to actually be positive about the future and be like, yeah, I think this team is a top 6 team, could make playoffs. So for me, I think I put them at the cusp of D tier, like a D+ tier. I think they aren't the greatest team in the league. I think they're towards the bottom. So yeah, I put them in D tier.
Oh, you put them in D tier. That's what I was going to say, because you're allowed to have cusps in your future prediction because you haven't had to write that tier list yet. But in this tier list, D tier, that's big. And when we compare to the Twitter vote, for example, and again, Twitter vote, 100 samples taken from complete lists across these Twitter replies. So definitively not the most scientific top 10 list. But the average score for Vitality, they ended up in 8th place. They're 7.41. So people pretty averagely had this team just outside of playoffs on average across all of the voting, even if that did in the end put them number 8. So
I would predict 8th, 9th place for Vitality. Yeah, I think that's why I put them in D tier. I think that maybe a bit more time they could push up to C tier. Because me as a person, I'm always the cup's half empty.
Yep.
So I'm very negatively biased towards these teams because I think that giving them too much positive expectation is just a bad kind of karma for the teams, to be honest. I think saying Vitality is a C tier team, even towards teams like Misfits or something like this, think it's not really fair to say after what we saw from them last year.
Well, we didn't see much, and that's kind of the
exactly.
big. That's the big thing is that I think that from. Thank you for the Twitter ranking list, Phil. You can see it behind us now. If I'll continue to announce it as we go for those of you in podcast land, but we have a visual too for you guys on YouTube. My big thing is it's like, did these players in the eyes of a public earn another split? I would say no. I don't know what happens behind, and I think behind the scenes is infinitely more important than what the public thinks. Don't get me wrong, but like at the same time, this team was not good. 9th and 10th place finishes respectively, or 10th and 9th place finishes respectively. They didn't really do much, and you took away. Even if we look at Cabochard analytically and go, hey, maybe he was calling for too many resources. Maybe he was the known quantity. He was the player on that team that we knew could be successful. And so maybe the team is better without him. But like, if there was a reason to believe in vitality for players who were skeptical about the new players, it was because they believed in Cabochard, and he's now gone. So I'm not saying this is the wrong choice for vitality, but to me as an outsider, I'm like, at the same time, vitality, I would not expect them to look me in the face and be like, no, we're going to be great. You can totally trust us. Like, that's definitely something that they're going to have to earn.
And I think it's not too much. I think, for example, for me, Skeens is a really good jungler. The only problem was he lacked so much confidence last year. I mean, if you look at the trajectory of Vitality last year, Milika couldn't get his visa. They had to play with substitutes. Then they brought in NG to like substitute out Skeens because Skeens perhaps was having confidence issues. He went back to the LFL, I think. Then he came back eventually in summer again. So there was a lot of ups and downs through doubts in that team. And I think I just haven't seen enough solid evidence of, 2-0 weekend, this team is actually looking pretty good. They're on an uptrend because there was always, they're maybe on an uptrend. Nah, sub someone else. Oh, it's the end of the split. They never really.
I think that is a good point and potentially a reason to give them more of the benefit of the doubt.
Exactly.
Vitality had a pretty cursed year.
True.
For all the reasons you mentioned. But yeah, the visa, the subbing players out, not being able to get the right players on the stage at any given moment. Like, I respect that, Duke behind the scenes, if he's like, this roster is good, I will prove it. I believe in it. From what I have seen, I know the potential is there. We'll double down. Is it a risk? Absolutely. But you're right. With the year they had, definitely more reasonable than like if everything was smooth sailing from the start and they still bombed out consistently, then maybe it'd be right to ask more questions. But I think that's a good point. Next two teams, Schalke, Nullfear, and Excel. You're excited to talk about Excel. Okay, all right. We can save Excel for later if you feel like that.
No, we can do Excel after Schalke. That's fine. Schalke, I think. Schalke's a difficult one for me because I think that they had a huge win streak at the end of the split. I think they were performing super well. I think, what was their win? Lost 11?
It was huge. It's like 11 in a row. 3 or something
like this.
I don't remember.
I think they were super popping off. I think that team is really stacked. So the only issue I have with Schalke is, first of all, they took away a big piece of their wins, which was Odo Amne. They subbed in Broken Blade now. They swapped in Broken Blade now. So that's a big factor for me because I think Odo Amne was, even if you look at their playoffs run against SK, they got lane swapped on. And Gilius said in the interview afterwards, Odo Amne was just shot calling the whole lane swap. We knew exactly what to do. You saw them play it perfectly, and that's just from the experience of Odo Amne. So essentially, they won a game in the best of 5 and got momentum for the rest of the series, shut down SK's whole plan in the summer playoffs from a lane swap, which was a jinx I think they had.
Yeah.
Just from Odo Amne's experience. So now you've taken that out, you've put in Broken Blade, who's very like sort of volatile carry. He gets lots of solo kills. Perhaps he gets solo killed back every now and then. He like split pushes a lot. So the whole dynamic in the top side's changed a bit. So you've lost his kind of rock. So I would be more confident if Schalke, I would say Schalke is an A-tier team if they get Odo Amne. But Odo Amne has obviously gone to Rogue. So for me, Schalke is a B-tier team. I think that they're a solid B-tier team. I think that they're solid 5th place team for me. Sort of middle of the pack, really strong team. I think that Broken Blade, if he shows up on a good day and has a really good performance, I think this team can push towards top 4 if they are really feeling it. Because I think that you can't deny the fact that winning 11 games in a row, that team has something.
Yeah.
It has some kind of magic in it.
Absolutely. And I think that like the public generally agrees with you, 4.99. So around, and obviously when you take averages, the numbers get a little bit messy, but this puts them 5th compared to other teams. Yep. But I think in general, like this is a team that you expect to make playoffs, and certainly with last year's lineup, you'd expect to make a deep run. I think the big things that I have my eyes on is like, how does the shift in the jungle meta, or maybe more accurately, how does Europe finally accepting that carries are what we have to play in the jungle affect a player like Gilius? And do we continue to see Faker Dage? Because that's the thing that's easy to forget when we didn't see Schalke at Worlds, was that literally he was one, Abadage was smurfing on stage, and 2, that is the most I have ever heard mid laners talk up, anyone really in a long time that isn't caps. People were really hyped on Abadage, and I want to know, does that continue? And if, let's say, hopefully, fingers crossed, in the next few months we're out of quarantine and we're playing back on stage, does that continue when he's back on stage?
That's a good question. I think that depends on the meta as well. I mean, I think the meta is similar as to what mid was last year. The only kind of exceptions are Corki and Zero Gone, which I think Abadage was really good on. but you're looking at Zoe, Orianna, Galio, those kind of things. I think that those are his comfort champs. I guess champion pools kind of spread out quite nicely over the last year. So the meta is going to continue. His team's somewhat continuing. His jungler's continuing. So can Faker Dagger show up again? Because he was carrying so many of those games, I think, with Gideon.
So good. Those Zoe team fights were... There was like that 10k Zoe damage team fight or 5k or whatever it was.
Around the dragon, I think it was.
Yeah, just landed every single... Oh, it was so good. Yeah, so hyped on Schalke. Definitely feels like a playoff contender. Obviously, like most of these teams, anytime there are roster changes, you never know. Sometimes it's simple, slot in. Sometimes it's like, wow, the entire team is better because of how much greater the like synergy of the team is. And sometimes it's a bomb and it just blows up in your face. So we'll see kind of what happens with Schalke. But Excel, Caedrel, they've lost you. So 10th place, right?
Well, they never really made playoffs with me, so I can't blame them. We think we finished 7th place. I think that looking at our
Which is great, by the way, the perma 7th finish and the 7th place on the tier list.
Yeah, I think that's just memes. Come on, guys. You got to stop it. 7's a magical number to some people and a lucky one, but to me, it's a horror.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we had lots of ups and downs. There's like a BBC series about our spring split, lots of Excel vlogs about the summer split. We finished 7th. I think we had 8-10 win rate and we had like a 96% chance to make it. Didn't make it. So that kind of sucks. But I think that the changes they made are understandable in a way. I think that you take the best mid out of EU Masters, Chocolate, who was, I mean, if you look at his stats in EU Masters, it was nutty. I think the only person that could come close was Leader, and he didn't really make it into the finals. Oh, he did make it into the finals, I believe.
No, he didn't.
Oh, didn't.
He got knocked out in the semifinals by Chocolate.
Yeah.
Which he did.
Oh, yeah, it was in the semis. They faced each other.
So they faced each other. And to be fair, Leader did beat him in lane both times, but I think Chocolate also out. I don't want to quote. Yeah. Because I don't want to get dragged into the Leader fist fight.
There was pentakills there and stuff like this. It was a huge fist fight.
Yeah. But definitely bloody lane phase and certainly a very tense battle between those two guys.
I remember Cassidins and pentakills, all these things. Yeah. But I think that Chocolate is arguably the best mid in New Masters. So that's an argument upgrade, right? You've got the best mid in the National League and you've thrown him into XL. Okay, good. Now we need a juggler. And I think that Young Buck's worked with Dan in the past. He was with him on Fnatic for a year, I think. He's seen him scrim. So he must obviously have confidence in him. Young Buck is the 6-star general, I believe, anyway. So he has some experience behind him to actually back up his decision-making. So I respect him for making the choices. Do I think that it's going to make them a better team? Not so much. I think that they're still going to be around a 7th place, 8th place team, in my personal opinion. So I placed them on the cusp of D tier as well. Now, that's just my own personal opinion and my own expertise opinion. There's nothing like against them or bad blood. That's just basically how I feel about the team. I think that they're... I think they have a lot of development to do, and I think that all depending on the meta is how I feel that team will perform. Because I think Chocolate is a really good mage player. Dan is a really good sort of Hecarim bruiser, tank-oriented player. You know, I wouldn't see him too much on things like a Talia or a Kha'Zix or perhaps even a Lee Sin, things like this, or a Graves. I think he's more of like a Hecarim kind of Olaf player, you know, bruiser, tankish, supportive way. I think that's kind of what I was last year as well. I was like the supportive jungler, Jarvan, Set, Sejuani. So I think the playstyle in jungle is similar in a way. They basically, me and Dan, I think we were quite similar. It's all on Chocolate, I think. I think if Chocolate can perform like he did in EU Masters, then I think this team could push up to a B tier team. You know, I have no idea. But for me, just from looking at play styles in general, I think D tier for me.
D tier. Okay. So yeah, that's what the final question was going to be, because there's a lot of teams apparently on the cusp of D tier, on the border between D and C. But both, so far the list is, for those keeping track.
Personally, I just think that the XL team doesn't have enough dynamic to be a C tier team in terms of like play styles, right? You have Tinks or an SK, you have Misfits, you have all these players who have different play styles, different ways that they can approach the game, who can carry the games. But I think for me, XL is a team where Patrick is the carry, and that's kind of it. And you saw that last year. We kind of embraced that, right? I'll pick supportive champions. Everyone else just picks supportive champions. I think Patrick is a top 3 AD carry in Europe right now. Yeah. I think if Patrick could slot into G2, Fnatic, Rogue, any of these teams easily, and there wouldn't be any change. If anything, there would be improvement perhaps. I think Patrick is such a hardworking and dedicated player. I think, nothing but praise for him.
And that is good to hear. Although we can come back to that statement later, because the idea that he's going to bench Rekkles on G2 and you're going to see improvement.
Yeah. Well, not so much improvement, but I wouldn't see the team get worse at all. Patrick is
he can slot into the role of a top tier AD carry.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I was just trying to make sure your sentiment wasn't he's literally better than everyone.
Oh, no. I'm just saying there could be different dynamics in teams.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah, I just think he's up there.
Yeah, and I mean he's consistently shown that even in the face of tough splits, he's always been a very, very good performer. Even making Ashe look like a hyper carry, which was very much not the case for most European AD carries.
Yeah.
So D tier, wow. Okay, that's tough. We already got 2 teams in D tier. It's looking like it might be a struggle at the start of the split. Next 2 teams I want to talk about are Astralis and Fnatic. Now, these are 2 teams on opposite ends of our tier list, according to Twitter. 2.71 average score for Fnatic, very close to Rogue actually when
Astralis
you look at it.
place.
Whereas Astralis are 9.59. Very few people put them anything but 10th, is how I read that.
I think that's a bit overjudgmental. I think Astralis' roster is not that bad, you know. I think they brought in a really solid bot lane from EU Masters, the best jungler from EU Masters, and then White Knight, who's just like this rock. So I think the team dynamic is actually pretty well. So I'll start off by saying I think Astralis is a C tier team for me. I think this team, with NukeDog performing well, is actually a pretty strong team. I don't think they're a 10th place team. I think they're a borderline playoffs team. I think they're 6th, 7th. I think that they will succeed pretty well. I think just I like to look at holistic point of views, right? Just from a generalized point of view. You know, you have like a bot lane who are best friends from what I know. They're super, super strong. They are playing so well throughout EU Masters. Then you have this jungler who's like really ecstatic there. He's really bubbly, Zanzara. You can see it in interviews. He's not afraid to make plays. He's not afraid to embrace a Skarner when he needs to. So he's really flexible. And I think it's all onto NukeDog, like I said. If NukeDog performs on this team, I think he's got a really good team of rookies around him, quote unquote. I think this is easily a C tier team.
Yeah, and it's something that I want to see too, because I think that it's easy to take the baggage of Origin in when you look at this team, but that project was a failure despite all the top tier talent on it for reasons that we may never fully understand. So looking at this more as a clean slate for a lot of these players, and to a certain degree for this org, as they've also rebranded, I think is probably the better perspective when it comes to setting expectations for this team, even if that is hard to do, and I understand why people would be skeptical because, again, like it's not, you don't have to forget the failures entirely, but if you're trying to judge this team as impartially as possible, I think it's more important to forget about last year, just all things considered.
Yeah.
Fnatic on the opposite side.
Yeah, Fnatic for me always going to be an A tier team. Not so much S tier because I think that they've lost Rekkles, so it's really hard to say, and they've lost Nemesis too. So they've brought in 2 new carries. I think, like I said, mid lane is going to change the whole way the game's played. As much as I think Nemesis and Niski are sort of on the same chapter or book where their playstyles are similar in a way, you know, they're both sort of supportive mid laners. I think Nemesis had more carry games in the Azir and the Corki and stuff like this. So excited to see how that team pans out. I think that Upset and Niski, Upset's always that player where you say, oh, he's so good, but he never really won a finals, or he's like the player who should have won a finals, you know, he should have had success. And I think this is finally the roster where you've got self-made Hylissang Whippo.
Yeah, Upset bombs out now. We have to give up on Upset.
I think that he has 3 players to a top 2 in their role right now in Hylissang Whippo and self-made. You can see that just from the Worlds performance, right? Against top esports, the reverse sweep. We all hated that. And 2 of these players are Worlds finalists. So yeah, and then you've got Niski, who's just come off the back of winning Spring Split, I believe. Yeah, they bombed out going towards Worlds, but he was playing pretty well, I think. So I wouldn't push them up to S tier just yet. I think if they had someone like Caps in mid, for example, then they're super, super strong. But Niski, if he shows up like he did in an A, I think that team's pretty strong, top 3.
Yeah, should be. Very much when we look at individual capacity in roles. But obviously big questions with Rekkles leaving. We're going to see how that pans out. We've got 4 more teams. I want to go to Misfits and Rogue next. And why don't we start with Misfits? This is a team that I have mixed feelings on, mostly because similar to Excel and their perennial 7th place, Misfits is a team that to me feels almost kind of cursed, where we have entire half splits, is what I would call it, where we see giant win streaks. We saw at the start last year with Razork and his Echo games, and just monstering, people left and right, and then the next week and the next rest of the split really being terrible. We saw it in, I think, 2018 in Mage Meta when Hansama was playing Draven. That was another time where Misfits were monsters for half a season and then instantly crap. And I don't know why it happens. And maybe it's 2Sports superstition of me, but in general, it makes me feel pretty reserved when it comes to predicting for Misfits, even if I've already acknowledged that that's not the most rational way to do analysis.
Yeah.
I never want to sell myself on Misfits because I just feel like every time we're like 9 wins in a row, Misfits, how are they doing it? They're like 9 losses in a row.
So
how did you do it?
Yeah, for me, I think I'll start off by saying Misfits is a C tier team for me. I think they're 6th, 7th place team as well. The thing with Misfits was, like you said, they were just so inconsistent. I think they've kept 2 good players from last year, Razork and Kobia. I think Razork was having games in Misfits where he was popping off so hard. Like I remember games on Fiddlesticks, games on Echo where they beat G2, all these things. So I think Razork has shown that he's a really good jungler in Europe. And I think Kobia is also stacking up pretty well. Now you've got like Vander, Agressivo, you've got Vetheo. So you've got two players who need to prove themselves in Vetheo and Agressivo, who had success in national leagues. And then you've got the 7-man roster, which I'm not a huge fan of the 7-man roster.
Until someone does it well in the West, the 7-man roster is code for we don't know the best version of our starting 5.
Exactly. That's the problem. You don't know what the best version of starting 5 is. And it goes so, like, there's a huge story behind like 7-10-man rosters, scrimming each other, subbing in and out, losing team dynamics.
Blah, blah, blah,
one
blah,
week
blah,
we
blah.
scream with this guy, one week scream with that guy.
Yeah.
We can't really find out the balance.
And Misfits did this last season. Remember, we had the whole DOS Denik debacle where we heard that DOS was, performing much better on an individual level, but Denik was like a much stronger, I believe, shot caller. I can't remember the exact language used around it. And there were weeks where DOS would just kind of run it. He had really, really brutally bad games, and fans were like, please, where is Denik? And so Misfits have not proven to be the best organization at utilizing a multi-man roster to find wins.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean that they can't, or that doesn't mean that them swapping in Denik would have been a sure thing for wins. It just means that this has not bought them wins in the past, this having extra people on the sidelines.
Yeah, and I think that if you look, like you said last year, just subbing in and out players, I feel like if you have a 7-man roster and you have that second guy right behind you and you have one bad weekend and you get subbed out straight away, it just hurts your confidence. It's just unnecessary. I think that you need to give players a chance. They're not going to come out on the first week of LEC and just start going 10-0 every game, showing up. So I think the 7-man roster, I'm not a huge fan, although I think that like a player like Vander is really, really strong. So pairing with Kobe, I expect to see him on the starting lineup. And then I think the Agressivo Hirit thing is a bit touch and go. I'm not really sure what's going on there. From what I've heard, Hirit is the starting player on that roster. So if Vetheo can show up Razorks like he was last year, Kobe is always as reliable as he is. I think that team is not bad overall. C tier for me. Yeah.
Again, so to recap, before we look at Rogue, Fnatic in A tier, Mad and Schalke in B tier, Astralis and Misfits in C, and Vitality and XL in D. So where is it? A tier? To guess, where is Rogue going?
Rogue's going in S tier.
Excuse me?
Yeah, Rogue's going in S tier for me.
What the heck? All right, so G2 hasn't come up yet, but I know G2 is going to be S tier because you're not.
For sure.
It's your first week. You're not just going to kill your career.
No. G2's
on the
going
first
S-tier.
tier list. Okay,
No,
all right. Spoiler.
G2 is going to be accompanied by Rogue in S tier for me because I think Inspired is, if not the second best jungler in the league. I think Larsen is also the same in terms of mid, and I think that they've just made upgrades on their roster. And I think from what I've heard, rumors going around, preseason scrims are not the most useful.
Well, and Mickey said that Rogue were the scariest opponent outside of Fnatic.
Yeah, on top of what I've heard, I know Rogue has the highest win rate in scrims from what I've heard, and they're looking like the scariest team.
Yeah.
And I can understand that. They've got Otto Amne, who I think is an upgrade from Finn. I think Otto Amne showed in Schalke how much experience, flexibility, and all the things that he brings. And Trimby is a player who was sitting super, super high low on the server. I think he was on RGO as well. He won EU Masters. He was looking so, so good. So you've got this rookie support, you've got this experienced top. Essentially, all they've done is they swapped their old top support around in terms of playstyles, right? You had Finn, who was a rookie in a way, and Vander, who was experienced. Swap it around, rookie support, experienced top. And I think the team dynamics is going to work so well. I think Larsen and Hans are two of the best carries we have in Europe. And I think Inspired is one of the best junglers we have as well. So I think for me, Rogue is an S-tier team. They finished first place in Summer Split.
So here's my one question, right? Mad and Rogue were neck and neck for most of the split last season. So why is Mad down in B tier with a jungle swap? And when you talked about this, you said jungle, mid, support. These are the swaps that we have to look at. So why does, Rogue get the benefit of the doubt with this support swap when you kind of compared it as somewhat equivalent to swapping out a jungler?
I think that it's terms of relevancy and recency. I think if you look at Summer Split, Rogue almost took G2 out in a 5-game series, whereas Mad just bombed out of playoffs.
Yeah, for sure.
And although Rogue did bomb out of Worlds a little bit, I think that their games weren't too bad overall. I mean, it was their first Worlds for the majority of their players. I think that this team has so much in it, and I think that the meta is so well suited to them. I think, especially from what I've heard, from what I've seen, from my personal gut feeling, I think Rogue is going to be contesting G2, Spring Split especially, for the title.
I think that's hype, and frankly, I would love to see it. It's about time we got another couple best of fives.
I think Fnatic have a lot to prove what their roster has, swapping out the carries. And I think that Selfmade Hill is saying, obviously, this is one of the best jungle support duos in the league as well. So I think Fnatic is almost pushing an S tier as well. So I think that's the most interesting thing for me. I think there's this trio of Rogue, Fnatic, and G2, which are kind of at the top for me, who are all going to be fighting against each other. Obviously, I favor G2 Rogue as the first two, and then you've got just a little bit of a drop off, and you go to the B tiers.
So let's talk about the final team on this list then, because we could talk about G2 Esports, but they haven't lost yet.
Yeah.
They got Rekkles. They're going to continue not to lose. And we will talk about them week to week, don't get me wrong. But I don't want to bore you with the preseason speculation of how great they're going to be, because even if they go 0-6 in the first 3 weeks, until they lose the split, G2 will be the favorites to win the split.
Yeah,
they would really absolutely have to be running it for us to think anything else.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, they had a couple of shaky regular seasons, especially in summer. You know, the first couple of weeks in the regular season in summer, they were losing games left and right. I think they had 3 losses in a row or something. Even we beat them.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's something wrong there. Even though I think we played pretty well. Even then, I still think they're the best team. Everyone knew that even if they had a shaky regular season, when they came into playoffs, they're just a different beast. So I think that's always something you have to take into account for G2. I mean, just look at their players.
For sure. But let's talk about SK. Let's round up, because you were excited about this team and all the rookies and all the potential, but obviously it's hard to know where they're going to place. So I don't know how much you've heard about from their scrims or how much you've heard about what they're doing, but where are you putting SK right now?
So I'll put SK in C tier as well.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of hype around SK in terms of individual players. Not so much the team in general, but just across the board individually. Like I said before, you have like Tinks, Blue, Treats, all these players who should have been given a chance, have finally been given a chance. So I'm excited to see how they do.
Yeah. And when we look at it, guys, that's going to be the final tier list. I'm excited to see how SK perform this weekend. We're going to have to see how those players work out. There's certainly a lot of questions. One more time through Caedrel's tier list. We have G2 and Rogue in S tier, Fnatic in A, all alone by themselves, Mad and Schalke in B tier. 3 teams in C tier are Astralis, Misfits, and SK, and D tier is Vitality and XL. Interesting to compare and compass to the Twitter ranking list, who again had G2, Fnatic, Rogue, Mad, Schalke, Misfits, XL, Vitality, SK, and Astralis. So mostly the top 5, the same. Slightly different orders, but the top 5 is the same. There's an agreement there. But obviously the order of the bottom 5, very, very different. And we're going to find out in these first week, especially because it is a super week coming up this Friday. LEC on the way back. God bless. It is good to be back.
Hell yeah.
But Caedrel, as is tradition for EUphoria, we got to get some bets in somewhere. We're not going to do them all the time, but there's a bet I want to make with you.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to start doing a segment here on the show where we recap the previous week for people so they catch up, they get some quick highlights, they get some understanding of the really important games. It's not about, the game where someone got a pentakill. It's about the games that really mattered, the games that really like shook our expectations. But what I want to do next week is do that same segment, but while totally and completely unable to speak because you've just eaten the spiciest thing that we can find. So if you've ever seen Hot Pepper Gaming, shout out to Jared Rosen, one of the writers for that. We're kind of taking your idea, and it's going to be Hot Pepper breakdowns. And so here's the deal. Fnatic versus Rogue are playing, and you're like, Rogue are second. And I'm like, you're probably wrong. I'm willing to humor you, but I think you're probably wrong. So here's the deal. Me Fnatic, you Rogue.
Me Rogue.
Loser has to eat the horribly spicy thing. I'm assuming we're gonna get that Korean challenge ramen because it's pretty good. We'll get the 2x spice.
Okay.
Because the 1x spice ain't enough anymore for me.
Oh boy.
So you're getting dragged down with me.
Okay.
And then you're gonna have to summarize it. Is that fine?
Yeah, I have enough confidence, Rogue. I know who's gonna be eating those next week. It's 100% you. Do you like spicy food?
I mean, yeah, but there's a threshold where like
there's always a threshold. Isn't there?
There's a threshold where you think it burns going in, and then it burns a lot more the other way, and you're like, my life is living hell, and that's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah, and the aftershock.
Oh god, and then having to do an entire podcast after that. My god. All right, we're starting pretty tame on the bets, but it'll be spicy ramen on the line for Fnatic versus Rogue. I'll be predicting Fnatic. Caedrel will be predicting Rogue. That is day 2 of the week. There are 3 days. Remember, it is Friday, Saturday, Sunday for this week of LEC. This has been episode 1 of season 7 of EUphoria. We hope you all enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week.
Lovely.